Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's Pleasant Hill Council at Large debate. My name is Rick Kinsler. I'm a DJ with FM 92.1 Country. It's my pleasure to serve as your moderator today. And before we begin the question, it's helpful for residents to understand the structure of the city government and the council positions that they're voting on. And Pleasant Hill operates as a special charter city under Missouri law. Charter functions much like a local constitution. It establishes how the city government's organized, how authority is shared between elected officials and staff, and how decisions are carried out. Under Pleasant Hill's charter, the city is governed by a mayor and four-member city council supported by a full-time city administrator and who oversees the day-to-day operations of city government. Council members serve staggered two-year terms so that experience and continuity remain on the council from election to election, and representation structured both geographically and citywide. 3 council members represent the city's precincts. 1 council member serves at large, representing the entire community. The mayor presides over meetings, helps guide policy discussions, and represents the city publicly, while the council works together to set policy, approve budgets, and make decisions affecting Pleasant Hill's future. Understanding this structure is important because the mayor must work closely with both the council and the city administrator to move priorities forward and ensure the city government operates effectively and transparently. With that in mind, we'll begin today's discussion about leadership policy and the future of Pleasant Hill. All questions were submitted by the community and reviewed by a committee for today's debate. And today, this council at large candidates will debate issues for the April 7th election. I want to say a special thank you to PH Momag, the city of Pleasant Hill, our candidates, and all who have taken the time to engage in the civic life of the community. And if there are internet problems that you experience today, this debate will be uploaded at a later time. So now we're going to give each candidate 60 seconds to give a short introduction, and we'll start with Mr. Mark Crane.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having us here today. Appreciate it. My name is Mark Crane. I live in the Sugarland HOA area of Pleasant Hill. I've been a resident in Pleasant Hill for about 16 years. I am currently the president of the park board for the city and have been for about 8 years. I've also spent some time as president of the soccer association here in Pleasant Hill. And a lot of the residents will recognize me as the guy wandering around on Saturday afternoons taking care of the field. So that's just kind of my intro. I'm running for this position because I feel that where we're at with Park Board, we have a strong Park Board and good momentum coming off the Prop P projects and the completion of those. And I think it is a good time to transition into a different position and offer my services to the city.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Mr. Tyler Young.
Hi, Tyler Young. I'm a father of 2 here in the town, lifelong resident. Been here since 1981. Graduated in 2000. Actually went to school with Zach here. So, I'm a business leader. I run a large manufacturing facility in downtown Kansas City. Employ 150 people. We're one of the largest suppliers of flags to agencies of the federal government. I'm running because this town is at a really great inflection point. There's been such a great foundation laid and such a bright future in front of us. But the execution that it's going to take someone who's an enterpriser to help move that into its next phase of development. There's a lot of what we want to retain about Pleasant Hill and keep the soul of Pleasant Hill, but there's a lot that needs to be improved in order for us to achieve our goals. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. I'm excited. I want to thank the community members who encouraged me to go in for this position, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Dr. Zachary Patterson.
So I graduated from Pleasant Hill in 2004. I was 4th generation Pleasant Hill graduate. My daughter was a 5th generation Pleasant Hill graduate, going all the way back to my great-grandmother. I grew up here. I love this town. downtown is the heart of our town, but 7 highway businesses are the engine that makes it run. And I've got one of those businesses, and my focus is going to be increasing our tax base on a level that we can offset some of the things that might come down from the state, or any losses that we have coming in the future, and not even to disparage what we're looking at right now, things that we're going to lose. So I think I can bridge that gap, and so that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much. And Mr. John Self.
Thank you for having me. My name is John Self. I am a project manager and engineer for a large manufacturing company in Grandview. We manufacture food production equipment. The main reason that I'm running is because over the last several years, we have done a lot of face-to-face interaction with residents, going door-to-door for prior campaigns, but also collecting for the signatures for the audit to try and audit the city of Pleasant Hill. We started watching and seeing a lot of issues with the city, and I'm really an issues person. The more residents I talked to, the more feedback I got about how they would like to see somebody who was engaged in the issues run. I have no desire to be a long-term candidate. I am there to fix the issues and move on with something else. I'll always be there for the residents, but my focus is get it done and let someone else who's better qualified take over.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And we're going to start with governance, transparency, and decision making. And we'll give the first question to Mr. Tyler Young. Most, if not all, candidates talk about transparency in government. How does transparency play out in your role if elected, and what steps do you think the council and mayor should take along with that?
Absolutely. In my company today, we use an AI note-taking app that records all of our voices and all of the text related to the interactions that go back and forth. In our small town, where whispers occur in corners, suspicion grows. And that's what's been happening inside of our council and outside of our council, and it needs to end. And so I want to make everything transparent, not just at the council level, but at the city hall level. One of the things that's most important, those meetings that occur inside City Hall also ought to be subject to the same level of scrutiny, so that as residents have faith that they're being heard, they're seeing it play out in action inside of City Hall, and it's not happening behind a veil that's an unintentional veil. But when you don't communicate, when you don't have that transparency, that there's room for conspiracy theories and suspicions to grow. And so that's the changes that I would bring to it. It's low cost and easy to put in place.
All right. Same question. Take it to Mr. John Self, talking about candidates talk about transparency in government. How does transparency play a role if you're elected, and what steps do you think the council and mayor should take?
Well, when I ran for mayor 2 years ago, I was the only person that had transparency on their signs. And I was the only person calling for it. And now we have this state petition or state support for petition for audit. And that is nothing but transparency. It's about answering the questions. To Mr. Tyler's point, there is a lot of whispering. But the fact of the matter is, the people shouting, it has fallen on deaf ears. And transparency is being open and honest about every single thing that you are legally allowed to be open for, and inviting people to come see what you have to offer, see what you're talking about, see what's going on, so that they have a voice when they do these votes, when they see how the public feedback is pushing. That's what should be guiding council. And right now, the city of Pleasant Hill is not listening to those people.
All right, same question. We'll go to Dr. Zachary Patterson, and talking about transparency in government. How does transparency play out if you're elected, and what steps do you think the council and mayor should take?
Well, I think the first step is, if I'm honored enough to be elected, you guys can come find me, 601 State North Route 7, 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, 8 to 1 on Saturday. I'm there. I'll listen to you. I'll put off appointments. I'll talk to you. I think when we're talking about transparency, I do think a city ought to is warranted. Unfortunately, it's very expensive, but I think it's money that needs to be spent. I mean, I've talked to some people within the city, and they say it's going to cost about $100,000, and that's not money. I mean, that's 2 roads getting paved. I hate to see it, but I think it needs to happen because I think you spend that $100,000 and maybe you get it back 2-3 fold.
All right. And finally, Mr. Mark Crane, talking about transparency in government. How does transparency play out in your role if elected, and what steps do you think council and mayor should take?
Well, in our previous, I agree with the majority of what's been said here. In our previous forum, there were some simple changes that were brought up as far as like procedure in council when there's items up for vote and review, giving the opportunity for second readings during city council on items for review. Again, the way I kind of view the transparency and running for office is everyone kind of has a finite amount of time, whether you're raising a family, volunteering at church, working as a doctor, a nurse, a policeman, a fireman, and you have odd hours. You don't have the opportunity to attend all the city council meetings. Maybe you don't have an interest like we do in civil service. And so as you go out and you cast your vote, find one of the candidates that identifies with you, that you have the trust is going to represent you to the best of their ability to find that voice. And if you do have issue and there are things that you don't understand, that's why you have 2 representatives on the council. You have a at-large representative and you have your precinct representative. So
All right.
I think that communication is where it needs to be.
All right. Move on to our next question, and we'll start this one with Mr. John Self. Do you support an independent audit or performance review of city operations? Why or why not?
I think it's pretty clear that I do. The reasons for that are multifold. The city does conduct a financial audit every year, and that is conducted by people that are hired by the city. They have an interest in maintaining that account. The comprehensive performance audit offered by the state is much more involved than that. It is an ethical review. It is making sure that our money is spent wisely. And for example, let's say it costs $100,000. That's 1/5 of what we spent on bleachers. Was that a wise purchase or not? Our annual review is not going to really cover if that was a wise purchase that benefits the residents in a way that they deserve. But a comprehensive performance audit makes that distinction and also analyzes the avenues and the mechanisms by which that purchase occurred to make sure. For example, that was put out for a certificate of participation. The last one of those we had was on the pool. We got a vote on the pool. Nobody voted on the bleachers except city council.
All right. Same question, and we'll have Dr. Zachary Patterson. Do you support an independent audit or performance review of city operations? Why or why not?
I do, because I think that money is going to be well spent. I think that it's a significant expense, but I think we're going to see it back 2-3 times fold. I completely support it. It's just going to keep everyone honest. And when you're talking about transparency, an audit's going to do that. People can look at that, they can trust that, they can believe in the numbers. I think it's all for the good. At the end of the day, like I said, it's a significant expense, but it's just about making this town the best it can be.
Okay, Mr. Mark Crane, same question. Do you support an independent audit or performance review of city operations? Why or why not?
Currently, I don't. With my profession, I'm in construction. I do asphalt and concrete, and I work with a lot of different municipalities and school districts on their projects. And with my interaction from Park Board, with the current city administration and the current council, actually current last 3 councils, the procedures that I see them following are pretty much standard across all of the KC Metro. If you have an RFP or an RFQ, a request for quote through the city, it's common practice that the city goes out and tries to procure 3 different bids. The city then has the option to review those bids and choose the best vendor for that project. They also have the option to throw out the lowest bidder. I mean, that's what this state review, part of their process is going to be, is are we doing everything to the best of our ability?
All right, same question to you, Mr. Tyler Young. Do you support an independent audit or performance review of city operations? Why or why not?
Currently, I do not. I'm not interested in engaging the city and tying it up in another audit. I think the current audit firm who completed last year's audit would take great exception that they are somehow compromising their ethics and morals in order to foster a relationship. Their relationship with us goes far beyond that and to many other clients. So I don't buy that there's some malfeasance there. And I've not heard anything voiced that would suggest that there's any self-dealing or contract issues that have been brought forward. I hear a lot of general accusations, but no specific ones. And I think, as we look at the bleachers, I do agree with you. That should have been a city vote. When in an expenditure of that size, absolutely. But it wasn't executed well. But I'm not here to relitigate the past. We're about setting the future. And I'm not interested in tying up and wasting time in an audit that nobody can really give me examples of why it needs to happen.
I'll be happy to speak with you after the debate.
Happy to.
All right. Let's start with Dr. Zachary Patterson on this question. What formal checks and balances should exist between the mayor, council, and city administrator, and how will you uphold them?
Well, we're talking about checks and balances. City council is 4 members. So when we're split, the mayor casts a deciding vote. So inherently, and I really like that, that the mayor is going to be involved in everything we're talking about. So, checks and balances with the city, as far as I'm concerned, they work for me. And they work for you. They work for all of us. And so I hate to go back to the last question, but we're talking about a city audit. I feel like there's some questions that need to be answered. They work for us.
What are those? You got 20 seconds left. What are the questions?
Well, I think that we need to look at efficiencies within the city. I mean, you go down to City Hall and you don't get the answers sometimes you want. I think, I've talked to people at both the banks here in town. I've talked to contractors here in town trying to establish new businesses here in town, and basically they throw the city code at them. And they just say, you figure it out. That's not okay. That's not okay. How are we supposed to attract new businesses when they're just like, here, you figure it out? We need somebody in the city that's going to come in and facilitate that relationship.
So it's customer service. It's true customer service at the city council level, is what you're saying.
I think we should have a designated person who their job is to, you guys want to talk about having economic development, a council. And if I'm not elected, I'll sit on that council. But at the end of the day, there has to be somebody who is bridging that gap.
Right. The waymaker, the way paver, the one who's acting as the flying V in front of our growth to make sure that we actually get where we need to go.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Now, as elected officials, it's our job as city council to be that bridge between the city government and the residents.
Yeah, but we're not going to sit there.
I've talked to 3 different residents in the last 2 days whose main complaint was that the city does not answer phone calls when you challenge code enforcement. That is not acceptable.
So let's start right there. Let's go ahead and let you finish on that topic for the checks and balances. What formal checks and balances should exist between mayor, city council, and city administrator, and how do you uphold them? So just continue your thought with that.
So the city council, their job is to listen to the residents and take the residents to the city to make sure that the city is moving in the direction that residents want. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that.
Yeah, we agree.
Yep.
Our new city administrator does a much better job of going to council and saying, this is your options. What would you like to do? And we saw that in the second work session where she came out and said, you have deficit spending.
Welcome back.
We are going to, yes, welcome back, and we're going to continue with our questions. And I'm going to take the question we had before the break to Mr. Mark Crane. What formal checks and balances would exist between the mayor, council, and the city administrator, and how will you uphold them?
Well, I mean, not being there now, I'm not 100% on what improvements need to be made. I know that there are some areas for improvement. For example, with the park board, current council, we're supposed to have a council liaison that attends our park board meetings, and our current liaison has attended one meeting in 2 years. And so while that is disappointing, I do work with our Parks and Rec director to make sure that the important information is getting relayed to the different council meetings and council members and the city administration through his channels. So yes, there are areas for improvement. As far as anything specific, until I'm there, I don't know how to help with that answer. So.
All right. And Zach, Dr. Zach Patterson, formal checks and balances. What should exist between the mayor, council, and city administrator, and how will you uphold them?
Well, like I said earlier, the city, they work for us. Technically, council members are paid, but it's basically a volunteer position. Mayor is, the mayor has to be at so many things. What the city pays with our special statute that we have as one of 6 cities in Missouri, the way it's set up, I wouldn't change it. I think we have a really good situation already. I would like to see, instead of 1 councilman at large, I would like to see 3 of them. I think you have a town this size. I think having 6 city council members is not unreasonable. And the mayor still casts the deciding vote if we're deadlocked at 3-3. Obviously, you can see this year, people are interested in the dialogue that's happening between the citizens and the city. And I think, obviously, there should be more of us there. Stronger voice.
All right. And for the final question in the governance, transparency, and decision-making section, start off with you, Mark Crane. Do you feel it's a conflict of interest if a council member is romantically involved or living with another council member?
I don't think I got to answer the checks and balances.
Oh, did I leave you out?
Yeah.
My bad.
All right,
Hold
all right.
that thought. When we have the discussion going on back and forth. Yeah, no, you're correct. So go back to Tyler to the question on the checks and balances. What one should exist with the mayor, council, and city administrator, and how would you uphold them?
Well, one of the things that I'm passionate about is optics. Optics in a small town are easy to see. In a big town, they can go behind the scenes pretty easily. But one of the things I think our council needs to do and our administration is create a new code of conduct and ethics. Because the ethics of taking vacations with council members are not great optics when you're a business leader in town. When you see 2 council members and 2 local, thought makers or necessarily a business leader sitting inside of a restaurant somewhere, it's not great optics. People think things are being done on the down low. And so we need a new code of ethics, a new code of conduct that sets the expectation, that gives the public the confidence that we're actually doing everything transparently and in front of them. I'm really passionate about that. And one of the things that's been brought up by multiple candidates is the true second reading. To actually get a true second reading so the public has time to react. We already meet the current Missouri mandate, but our residents are demanding more. They want more of a voice. They want more of a say. So that's how I would change things.
All right. So now we'll move on to that final question. Do you feel like it's a conflict of interest if a council member is romantically involved or living with another council member? Mark Crane.
I think on the topic of optics, it probably does not appear right. Do I think both individuals could be very ethically straightforward about it? Yes. I mean, there's nothing legally saying that it can't be, and so really from that standpoint, I would say that I don't have a problem with it. Again, it where you get into the whispers and the optics of it has to do with who the people are. So,
All right, same question to you, Tyler. Do you feel a conflict of interest if a council member is romantically involved or living with another council member?
Well, I do, and I know it's a sensitive topic, and it's obvious that both members really care about the city, but I'd like to see that person maybe on another board. Would be a good compromise. Where I think the city is not well served by that is now they're able to take one unified vision that might occur underneath their household and speak for half the city. I mean, they can deadlock the city council if they'd like to. And I just don't think that's good optics. I don't think it's well served to the community members. And I do think it's unfortunate because I think both are very passionate about the city. But at the end of the day, we need to reduce the amount of noise and complaints and the poor optics that have occurred in the city over time. And I don't think that moves us further towards that goal. We're all talking about transparency. We're talking about code of ethics. I just think that this is a sticky wicket that I don't think there's any way to navigate. And unfortunately, I don't think that it should happen. So,
Okay, Dr. Patterson, your comments on the is it a conflict of interest if a council member is romantically involved? Or
Well, I
living
guess
with
I'm
another
not
council
privy to some town gossip. I don't know, but
well, let's clarify. It's John Self's significant other.
okay.
Who's also running for city council.
Okay. Well, I mean, my wife and I can have differing opinions, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and she's going to do what she's going to do. But maybe not everyone's like that. I don't know. It's a tough situation for sure. And when you're talking about optics, the optics of that are not good. So, like you said, there's plenty of boards in town that you can serve on. You can be on park board. You can be on fire board. You can be on. You can go run for, being on the schools and everything. But, it's. I don't know. That's a tough one.
And John Self, how do you feel about? Do you feel like it's conflict of interest if a council member is romantically involved or living with another council member?
Before I respond, I'd like to address something Zach just said. Part of the audit is that people on our boards are not being replaced on a regular interval. And Mark, I've applied to Park Board at least 3 times that I can remember. How many of those did you receive?
I'm not aware of any of your applications.
The city is the person, the entity that filters that. And that's part of what the audit is for, and that's part of why I chose to run. So going back to the question, I have been a transparency candidate from day one, and we have never made a secret that Jessica Elliott and I are dating. We keep separate households, we keep separate finances. We made our decisions to run independently of one another. And again, with Zach, I will guarantee you, if she's got her mind made up, I am not swaying that. So, and it does provide bad optics because part of what we're fighting is the nepotism at City Hall and the conflicts of interest. But when we look at what compromises a relationship, a conflict of interest is usually financial. We have no gain. We're not involved in any of the business entities in town. We're not involved in any of the other boards. And to that point, we also are running for different seats. It's not nepotism when you're elected. The city is the one making the decision to hire us, either as individuals or not hire us at all. And when you're in an elected position, nobody in this city can say, I did not know that they were in a relationship. We have been fully transparent about that, and I do not want anyone to ever say, I wish I had known that at the end of the day.
All right.
So are you saying that if I have a business here in town, I have like a conflict of interest running for city council?
You could. If you're making,
How?
If you're making
How?
decisions based on economic development, let's say.
Well,
if
that
you're-
goes for
let's-
residents too. You could say the exact same thing about your home
Exactly.
and local ordinances.
Exactly.
So let's.
It makes
yeah,
no
that's very
difference.
fun.
It makes
my
no
point.
difference.
That's my point here. I could say, okay, Mark had somebody serve with him on soccer. That could cause an inappropriate relationship. And when we're both running and we're both fully transparent, which we are, that can't happen. Everybody knows. It's not a secret. And we've never kept it a secret. And to further that point, let's say something comes up that could really boost your business on 7. Okay, just some fictional thing. And it comes up, you would ethically have to abstain from that vote anyway.
No,
No,
because
it-
people come to see me because they like Dr. Patterson and they like the 5 other doctors I work
The
with.
difference is he
It-
doesn't have a significant other who's on the board who's going to align with him to force that through.
You're assuming alignment, and that's a pretty broad assumption.
Well, I think it is a very logical assumption
It's an
in a
important
significant
question.
other relationship. So he doesn't have a partner who's also that would be a great example. If your partner was sitting on the board with you and you both were voting for something that would benefit you, yes, that would be that would start to really smell of collusion. And the same thing's going to occur with a significant other.
But if I have a vote that I can financially benefit from, and I don't choose to abstain from that, that is a conflict of interest. Makes no difference who else is on council.
Yeah, but you're really
What-
creating a very significant hypothetical. You're talking about direct benefit or implicit benefit. If the implicit benefit of widening the highway gets him more traffic, does he have to abstain from that vote? Absolutely not. So, implicit or explicit financial gain makes a big difference. And you're really parsing hairs here. Where we're talking about is you have a significant other sitting next to you having council meetings after the council meeting. Okay, so you can have those all day long in a line where it's not happening in a public view.
So in other words,
I would never say that Zach Patterson is compromised because something might benefit him on 7.
So in other words, what you're telling me is you would never discuss a council issue with your wife, and you would never consider her input,
I
On a council issue.
I absolutely would, but she doesn't sit on the council, John.
but it still influences your vote, is what you're telling me.
And that's some good lively.
She
Good,
doesn't
good.
sit on the council.
She doesn't sit on the council.
And that's some-
and we should all talk to our community members, which might include my wife or any other businessman.
And that is some good debate. And we do need to move on. And I do appreciate you gentlemen, respecting each other and debating that issue. But we do need to move on. And we're going to go into preparing for revenue decline. And let's start with you, John, with potential reductions in property taxes, possible elimination of state income tax, and discussion of removing sales tax on food, all of which could significantly impact municipal revenue. How should Pleasant Hill prepare for a period of declining revenue?
I think the first thing they need to do is start trimming the fat and start saving some money. That's one of my biggest issues with the current council is they're not considering cutting the fat. And I'm looking at staff cutbacks. I'm looking at redundant positions. We have positions in our city that other cities our size simply don't have. Clinton doesn't have an assistant city administrator. They're the same size as we are. They've got a hospital. They've got a Walmart. They have an annual attraction. And they don't justify that expense. How can we justify that? The other thing that I would look at is what can we do to diversify our city, which is something that should have been done a long time ago. We need more than just a small 1 block long downtown with a few boutiques. We need light industrial. We need some light manufacturing. We need an attraction of our own. And all of that's called out in the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan also lays out several low-cost strategies for implementing that.
All right. Same question to you, Mark, with potential reductions in property taxes, possible elimination of state income tax, discussion of removing sales tax on food. How should Pleasant Hill prepare for the period of declining revenues?
Well, I would want to compliment John that he brings up a lot of good points there. As far as budget review, areas that you can reduce your budget, save money as a city. The comprehensive plan hasn't come up yet today, but I know it will more. There was a lot of time and money spent on updating our comprehensive plan. And I think that there are opportunities that the city is not taking advantage of in steering the city in the right direction for the economic growth laid out in that comprehensive plan. It's on the city's website. I encourage anybody to review it. It's a rather large document, but there was a lot of community sessions put in with citizen input, council, city administration to develop that, to identify opportunities for development on the north end of town and on the south end of town.
All right. And let's go next to Dr. Zachary Patterson. Your thoughts on the reductions in property taxes, the elimination of the state income tax, discussion of removing sales tax, which will all impact municipal revenue. How should Pleasant Hill prepare for a period of declining?
Well, I
revenue?
think that it goes back to the audit that apparently we're all split on. I mean, I think that audit's going to pay for itself 2-3 times. I think you have that audit. Maybe you find some inefficiency. You want to talk about cutting the fat? We got to have an audit. We have to. It's an optics thing too. But the other thing is, you're talking about this 2040 plan. You know how many 7 highway business owners that were asked to weigh in on that? 1. There's 30 of us up there. They called 1 of us. And if I had been the one, I would have been bringing in everybody I knew. Adele, Dustin Mounts, Travis Land. I would have brought them all in. So we make a plan. You talk about transparency. We make a plan for the future of this town, and we're talking to one person.
Okay. And same question to you, Tyler. The reductions in property taxes, elimination of state income tax, the discussion of removing sales tax on food, all which will significantly impact municipal revenue. How should Pleasant Hill prepare for a period of declining revenue?
Absolutely. This is something I'm extremely passionate about. You can only right size your budget so much by austerity measures. And you can only cut so far before you're going to have the residents who are complaining. We need to right size our budget. I think everybody at this table agrees on that. But at the end of the day, just cutting the fat is not going to get you where you need to go. Everybody loves this 2040 plan. I keep hearing it over and over, and I cannot wait to talk about it because it just as Zach said, very little consideration was made to the right people. And I see it being treated as a mandate. It is not a mandate. It's just a guide for a potential future. That 2040 plan has some great ideas in it, but it is not how we're going to set the path forward because we live in a different time right now. 2021 and 2022 is a period of low interest rates, easy construction financing. Those don't exist right now. So we want to do the fun stuff in the 2040 plan. We're not willing to do the stuff we actually need to do. As you talk to city workers today, there's a focus on wants and there's not enough focus on needs. And they feel it because they're having to pick up all of the needs that people are not willing to stop and fund. So as it relates to what we would do for the future, I'll wrap up with it's got to be focused on economic growth. It's light industrial, just as John said. We cannot get by just on another burger shop. I love them. They're great here. But what we need are job providers. You look at Brinkhammer's on the east end of town. That's the exact model for what you need to bring 10 more of here. And if you create an economic council, that guy's got to be on it.
All right, and I'm going to stay with you, Tyler, on the next question. How will we maintain existing services and continue infrastructure expansion if the revenue does indeed decrease?
Well, again, it's on economic expansion, and you've got to stop You've got to stop adding issues that are putting strains on that system. There's a housing development that just finished over in Hickory Hill. There's one going on the north end of town that Nick Schwazik has got going, and there's another one in the works. Hey, we're going to support those. We will. We've already made commitments. But as a town, every time a house goes in, we all put strain on the system that we're trying to take care of, and the houses don't drive enough taxes to actually fund the infrastructure that they then tax. So the only way you're going to be able to do this, the only way you're going to be able to maintain through a declining revenue imposed by a series of threats to the city budget, is to focus on economic expansion. After that, you're going to have to start cutting services. If we don't expand, and that is the theme today, and anyone can yell at amen as we hit those points, but economic expansion should be the theme of the day, because that's the only thing that gets you through this.
And will help achieve a balanced budget.
And help achieve a balanced budget. That's right. Amen.
All right. So, Dr. Patterson, your thoughts on the how we maintain the existing services and continue infrastructure expansion if revenue decreases?
I think Tyler hit on a lot of really good points. I mean, I ran the numbers the other day. Like, you know, unless I was running for this position, I wouldn't have looked at it. But, you know, my business is not, you know, it's not the end all be all. It's not Sprint. But you know, it's a moderate sized business in this town, and we pay about $72,000 a year in sales tax that comes through our business, and then you know we got about another 20 something in property taxes. So you put those two together, we're talking $100,000. You know how many houses it takes to bring in $100,000? It's about 50, and those are high-end houses. We're talking $400,000 or $500,000 houses.
And the infrastructure they tax will never pay for it.
To hit that.
Yeah.
We get one business in there, and we offset 50 houses. The answer is simple.
The public needs to understand that. That is the exact point. Zach is totally on it.
All right, Mark. Same question to you with the how do we maintain existing services, continue infrastructure expansion if revenue decreases?
Well, I really concur with everybody up here on the board. It boils down to economic development and improvement within our city of establishing a board, maybe starting a economic development as their own entity, even outside of similar to how Lee Summit runs theirs. But it's focusing on 7 highway development. Is the city doing their part to be attractive to bring in these businesses? And I don't know that we have successfully done that in the past, but I know there's room for improvement.
All right, John, and the question to you, how will we maintain existing services and continue infrastructure expansion if revenue decreases?
So I think the first thing that we need to do as a city is step back and do a cost-benefit analysis. Are we really seeing revenue from the trail? The trail's been the big push as long as I've lived here. How much money is that really bringing? The other thing we need to do, and it's pages 90 through 97 of the comprehensive plan, talks about creating an economic development council and pushing that forward. But that's not just a matter of sitting on your butt and waiting for a business to show up. I'm not the guy that sits at home. I go talk to residents about problems. If I'm on council, I have absolutely no problem being the guy to go out and kiss shoes to get people to come here and see what our city has to offer for economic development. I don't want to see a council person that, like you said earlier, just sits and doesn't go do anything. They need to be active, and that needs to be a prerogative to actually get out and engage other companies, other people, other entities to bring them here and show them what we have to offer. And the city needs to make sure that we have prioritized what we have to offer so that when they show up, they don't come to some dusty little trail town. They come to a nice town with great people.
All right. Dr. Patterson, if revenues do fall short of projections, which city services would you consider reducing first, and which would you protect?
I don't think I'm in the interest of reducing services. I mean, the audit might tell us something. It might not. It might not. You know, and at least you have validation at that point. I mean, my goal moving forward is, I mean, what we got going right now is pretty good. I think we would all agree. Can we do better? Yes. So I wouldn't be looking to reduce anything because the city works for us. So I wouldn't be looking to reduce anything. I think I know the use tax is on here, but you look around. There's most of the towns in Cass County that are around our size have the use tax. It's not popular, but Harrisonville's getting it. Why shouldn't we? Why are we going to sacrifice services because we don't have a use tax? I mean, that's just my thoughts on it.
All right, same question to you, Tyler. If revenues fall short of projections, which city services do you consider reducing first, or which would you protect?
Well, I'm going to go with the hypothetical that there is no other way, right? That we are out of budget and something has to go. And I tell you what, you protect the infrastructure. It's the water, it's the roads. It is the things that make the city work. And then everything else in order of usage is on the chopping block. So, everybody loves parks. We should have parks. But if there's a park that, hey, people don't go there that often, okay, support for that park, we're going to close it. And for the time being, it's not forever, because all of us agree we want to grow our way out of this. We're not in a crisis today, but we could be if we don't change course. If we continue building houses without building light industrial, without bringing businesses in here to help fund the tax base. And Zach's example was exactly right. One good business offsets 50 homes. And that balance has to be struck. So in terms of services we cut, it's those that are used the least.
All right, Mark, same question. If revenues fall short of projection, which city services would you consider reducing first, and which would you protect?
I haven't really made a list of what I would reduce first or eliminate or whatever. I think part of this is recognizing what Pleasant Hill is. We are a bedroom community where the majority of our residents commute in the AM and back in the PM. And it's how do you move that needle to where you have more opportunity for employment here in Pleasant Hill, with the economic development side of it. You've got 15 minutes in any direction, and you can find just about anything you need. So it is, what is our identity? As far as reducing anything, Tyler, I think you're spot on. You take care of the must-dos and go from there.
All right, and John, same question to you. If revenues fall short of projections, which city service do you consider reducing first? Which would you protect?
Like the rest of them, infrastructure cannot be compromised. That's my frustration with the Prop P is we spent so much money on parks and not so much on infrastructure, but that die is cast. At the end of the day, we have brand new parks. I don't want to see our parks fall into a state of disrepair like they were, but all of that equipment is new. We do have a period of time where we don't have to focus on maintaining it as high as we should normally. That needs to be prescribed and set in stone so that we don't get in the habit of not maintaining them. The parks they're a want. They're not a need. Water, roads, those are needs. Our city could cut back a lot on some of the vehicle usage that we have through our lease program. We could go to lesser expensive and more fuel efficient vehicles. I think our dog catcher does a great job, but I don't understand why she needs a 3/4 ton truck with a dog box on the back when a Ford Ranger could do the same thing and probably save some money.
Well, I can tell you, I work with Dana almost every day. She didn't want that truck. She didn't want that truck. She didn't want it.
I do have a response too, John. As far as bringing up the parks and the Prop P and the new parks, I do want to say some thoughts. And again, I'm probably biased because I've been on park board for so long. It's a quality of life thing also for the community. Park board, we try and approach it as a cradle to grave approach to the city. Our parks had been neglected for 3 decades, had fallen to, we were at a point where we weren't even maintaining what we hadn't maintained. Like it had gotten to the point to where people were not using that public space at all. And as far as the bond issue for the Prop P, it was long overdue. The citizens did approve it because there was a large voice of we needed something in our community.
And I
So-
agree with that, and that's why I said I think we need to be very cautious about casting that as the standard when it really needs to be the exemption, because that's a poor investment if we don't maintain what we've spent. But in the short term, it is a way to save money while we try to figure out other avenues to navigate these waters.
Well, I will say, for my own part, I've coached youth football for 10 years, and we played on fields that were maintained by Pleasant Hill Youth Sports Association, and then the park came in. We played on turf this year, first year. We practice on turf. Is it perfect? No, but it's really nice, and those boys appreciate that, and we all appreciate that.
Well, and I have one last small point to make. I do think that the city can cut back on events. And I agree with Mark. It is a huge quality of life thing. We all want to have. But when the city's facing needs, we have plenty of nonprofits in this town that host events. We have tons of events. Do we need to have one every single weekend? Absolutely not. The city, they're very minimal in some of the spending that they do on those events, and then they're very extravagant in some of the spending that they do on those events. Do we need to have a Shamrock Shimmy? I'm not Irish, it's not my thing. But is that something that we can trim back and then bring it back when the city's in a better spot financially?
As the Irish, I take great exception. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we're going to move on to economic development and business growth, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit. And so, Tyler, I'm going to go with you. How does zoning and development affect Pleasant Hill and its identity?
Well, absolutely. Zoning does set the method in which we're going to use that land. And so, and this is separate and aside from economic development, or you want to, because there's a whole section for that, right?
Yeah, this is it's part of the
Okay.
development of the economic development and business growth, and so how would you promote economic growth with that?
So with our zoning, we need to create economic zones. Whoever 30 years ago created that small industrial park at the north end of town, God bless them, because it at least set the trend. But we have not then repeated that anywhere else. And there's so many places around the city that won't interrupt the flow of residential traffic. It won't influence the quality of life of the residents there. It's just outside at the edge of town. But we need to create shovel-ready lots that are ready to build upon. The infrastructure is there, and then we can then promote it and make it available. There's micro-manufacturing districts. These are incredibly popular. I was just in one not that long ago in Kansas. 5 to 30,000 square foot industrial spaces, flexible spaces that almost act as an incubator for a small HVAC guy who's maybe building his business. And as he grows, he moves into a new shovel-ready lot and builds an actual facility. And so we can incubate those businesses and attract those small businesses who need those locations. Those 5, 10, 20, 30,000 square foot spaces with dock doors, with roll-up doors, with pull-in are incredibly valuable, and they're very hard to find for small businesses. You see some really great businesses like Brothers Fence up here who have made use of an old building and have really repurposed it. And I'm glad it's not sitting empty anymore. That's the exact kind of business that needs support of structures of that size. So, setting in place those, we're looking at advanced manufacturing recruitment. We need to go out and find people that are looking for spaces like that, who are looking for labor. But if you continue to use your zoning to build out your residential without building this in proportion, you will continue to strain the very systems that we're talking about here today. The very infrastructure will continue to decline and be stressed, and services will decline.
All right, Zachary, same question. How does zoning development affect Pleasant Hill's identity, and how would you promote economic growth?
You talk about Brothers Fence. That was Sinclair Station when we were boys.
Yeah, it was.
The dinosaur was out
I
there
missed
for the longest time.
He could bring that back.
But no, I mean, just to echo what Tyler's saying, I think that where it starts is honestly annexing some areas that currently aren't within our jurisdiction. You look at the north end of town, Lake Lotawana comes all the way down, and we're out to county line to a degree, but not really. And there's lots of land out there that would be perfect for industrial development. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. And I think there's a lot of people in those areas that would be open to voluntarily being annexed. Of course, it's going to be up to a vote, and it's going to be up to them. But as councilman, I'd go out there and knock on the doors and try to sell them on the deal.
And I think south of town too, kind of southeast on 58, because what industrial needs is it needs ingress and egress. It needs highways, it needs arteries, and you don't want to take your industrial through the center of 7 Highway in downtown, clogging up right in front of your business. So you want to give them methods for getting in and out of the city. So I think north of the city, south of the city, to the west of the city, all of those are great options for that light industrial development area. So
I don't know what the legalities are on the south end. A lot of that's floodplain. So I don't know how that works with industrial. I know if you're trying to build a house, it's pretty hard to do.
it's pretty hard
but
to do.
with industrial, maybe I don't know what the workarounds
You do
on that would
floating
be.
docks on the old potty ponds, Yeah.
Right.
All right, Mark, same question to you on that. How does the zoning and development affect Pleasant Hill and its identity, and what would you do to promote economic growth?
Yeah, I mean, there's trying to answer the question here after Tyler. He hit all the right notes on it. It is recognizing those areas that the opportunity is there for possible rezoning to sell ourselves to those businesses to bring them into town. As far as the right section of town, I think that there's a lot of opportunity on the south end of town. And again, going back to the comprehensive plan, if you look at it, the comprehensive plan clearly says that the north end of town is the opportunity for us to start establishing more growth in Pleasant Hill.
So would you agree that we should annex the 150?
I don't know. I don't know that I've come to.
I think we should, because somebody's going to take it. We better just take it for ourselves.
I certainly don't want it to be Lake Lotawana. I'm already aggrieved that they're as far out as they are.
That's
So,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that already in city limits?
No, we
No.
go to county line, and we go.
It's confusing because there's a sign up there that says Pleasant Hill
We go
7
about-
miles, but it's inboard of the sign that says Pleasant Hill city limit.
The miles is to downtown.
Yeah.
'Cause
To
when,
city
when
center.
my dad was a kid, they used to run to 50 Highway and back, and it was 7 miles there and 7 miles back.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, John, the zoning and development, how does that affect Pleasant Hill and the identity, and what would you do to promote economic growth?
So I have a love-hate relationship with the new Unified Development Code. I won't go into the hate so much. It does do a good job of trying to preserve the feel of our town, and that was a big thing in the comprehensive plan, was don't change the feel of Pleasant Hill. So as far as the residential and the commercial goes, it's very, very aggressive about that. I have heard, but I'm not a businessman, that it's very restrictive to building new business. There are a lot of things that were imported with that code as far as restrictions on building, testing, stormwater runoff, things like that. And that was the problem that I had with it was we basically copied in 180 pages of code that was for another city and was not
100%.
properly made for our town.
Yep.
And so I hear whispers about why Royal Contracting left. And if I'm on council, that's the kind of thing I want to go talk to them and find out what was the roadblock here. And then if we need to go back to our code and revise our code to make it more inviting to local businesses, and that's what we need to do. As far as which direction in town, to me, that's trivial. As long as it works well for the city, that's for the planners and zoners to figure out.
Well, and I think, like we've all talked about, bridging that gap is huge. It's everything. It's all it is. I mean, the code's been there. The code really hasn't changed. Dr. Baker, my partner, told me about when they put in this clinic up here. They had to jump through some hoops, even though they were established business here. I mean, Dr. Ewert started that in 1972. We have, a reasonable sized parking lot, but we have a retention pond that's almost as big as our parking lot because of city code. Those gaps can be bridged, and it's because they wanted to do it. They were already here. They wanted to do it. But people who are looking at Pleasant Hill or Peculiar or Harrisonville, you got 3 choices. We got to make it easy for them.
Right.
Absolutely. I think the theme is we need to be open for business, and our codes is indicative of that. I'm also frustrated with the codes that went through. I think we probably have a lot of the same frustrations with that. And as a business owner, I think I would be aggrieved as well. And you know what? We can change it. It doesn't have to stay. Again, it didn't come on a stone tablet. We can have a meeting about that, and we can change the things we don't like.
And so that goes back to why I push for the audit. I don't feel that planning and zoning has a diverse set of people on it who are up to date on what it's like to run a business in this town. And they're the ones that put in the code. We have some people who do municipal signage and things like that for a living, and they get it in a way that I won't. But when we don't turn over those people in those boards and commissions and keep them updated, then we end up with a code like we have that's so big we can't afford to enforce it, and so complex nobody in town can understand it, and was never made for this town to begin with.
And would everyone here agree? I think you guys would. Giving tax abatements to attract businesses here for extended periods of time. Pleasant Hill's a great town.
It is.
There's no two ways about it. We don't need to sell our souls to get somebody to stay here or come here. They need to come here and they need to be invested in the community. It shouldn't just be, hey, we're not going to charge you taxes for 10 years, and then they're probably going to leave after.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
that can be used in a nuanced way. So I don't want to close the door on that completely, but what it can be. So in part of what I've put together, no decision that comes through the city council should put the city or its residents worse off at the presence of or at the behest of a business that we're trying to lure here. We shouldn't be extending to them funds. But if that property was yielding nothing before, and now I've got a business there that's paying sales tax, and I have a business that's employing my local, because I think, Mark said it best. We are a bedroom community, and the only way that's going to change that is to get enough businesses here in town that people can work in the town that they live. And that's going to take a long haul. That's not a 5-year project. That's a 20 or 30-year project. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to do that just by saying, here's a plot of land. You're going to have to lure them there.
And to Tyler's point, one of the things I've thought about residential development for a long time is we need to stop treating our real estate here that we have available for development like a burden. It's an asset. Lee Summit is growing this direction. Raymore is growing this direction. Our property values are going to increase. We are going to become a very desirable piece of real estate in the future. When we do a development for a residential district, for example, we need to hold that developer to create more of our infrastructure for us as part of the deal, instead of just giving it away, hoping they'll build houses and give us some tax revenue.
well, in Lee Summit, don't they charge basically like a per head fee, like per house? Like those developers pay it.
That I don't know about.
Yeah. When it comes to that, I think we're always going to agree. Residential, while it is not a mark of success just to count rooftops here. The mark of success is looking at how robust this budget is and knowing that we can pay for the rooftops that are coming. And so I agree that those developers should pay for that infrastructure. And all of us who are paying taxes in this town shouldn't be on the hook for it. Just so that we can add houses and pat ourselves on the back and say, look, there's a new development. But all it did was drain this budget. It continues to stretch it. It puts pressure on the water system, the sewer system, and everything else, and the roads. Every mile, I think I saw this the other day. I Googled it. There's like 66 miles of roads in Pleasant Hill, which is a shocking number. So every time you add in a new subdivision, that's just that much more road that you have to maintain and curbs.
And it costs $80,000 to resurface half mile of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
I will say that when you go door to door, you really appreciate how many miles of road there are in this town.
So, and this is going to tie in to what we've been discussing already. And I'm going to start with you, John. How do you view the 2040 comprehensive plan?
The comprehensive plan, I hate the name. I'll say it. It makes it sound like it's this rigid set of directions that's going to fix everything. And that's not what it is. It's more like our Constitution, where it's a living document that's supposed to be updated over time. And parts of it are already out of date. It's only 5 years old, but that's the march of time. Pages 90 through 97 have a bunch of recommendations that the city government, for the most part, should do in order to advance the plan. And that is doing research, that is creating committees, that is delegating authority in order to spread the load of this development to other people beyond the city and diversifying that so that you have a stronger base to work from. The comprehensive plan is not rigid. It's designed to flex instead of break.
Well, and on that,
Go ahead, Mark.
yeah, okay, yeah, I was just say, as far as the comprehensive plan, it's kind of a blueprint of the direction your city is going.
Correct.
When with the economic development, if you are trying to attract and entertain new businesses to come in, and you've got to have something to show them of, hey, here's where we've been. This is what we're doing in our planning to move forward. Are we attractive enough to get them to come in and be part of our community? So again, it's not in stone that is the mandate. It is just that the city has put some thought into what they want to see in the future. And our last comprehensive plan, I believe it was 15 to 20 years old before we did our last update. So it was long overdue for update. And I agree with John. There's parts of it that are ready to be updated again already.
And the frustration with it is the current city council has done very little with it. One of the things I would like to see codified is that every council meeting has an update on what we're doing to meet some of those recommendations in the plan. Some of them are very low cost.
It's not a bad idea, but there's no mandate from the public for this. You haven't asked and had the public vote on this. Is this what they want? Because if you look at that plan, it shows rapid growth. Is that what we want for this town? We want 25,000 people here? What is the goal of this town? We all said we like the small town feel. So and my problem, I'll go ahead and take the minute now.
Yeah, that's what. That's what I was trying to. I was trying to motion that way to let you know. Go.
All right,
With it.
so the but here's the challenge with that comprehensive plan. We all didn't vote on it, and I think he's right. You needed to update it. You know, Zig Ziglar says if you don't have a target to shoot for, you're never going to hit it. You know, and so we need something to work for, but. That plan, as it was presented and as the details, it keeps getting used in conversations with city government and with those running for council as what we should be doing. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily what the public agrees with.
I'm going to disagree with you on one point
it's
there.
5 minutes. I'm going to take it.
Sorry.
So, but as it relates to that, I'll take a couple seconds back. That threw
Sorry.
me off. So,
I'm sorry.
no worries. As it relates to that, though, everybody likes to focus on the fun stuff inside of it. The revitalized downtown. We all love downtown. We'd love it to be booming, just like downtown Lee Summit is. But at the same time, they're focusing on the fun stuff, the wants, and they're not focusing on the stuff inside that plan that was needs. It was infrastructure. It was economic development. I'm going to sound like a broken record because that is what is needed in order to make that plan happen. And everybody's focused on the fun stuff. We're all voting for, free ice cream, but nobody wants to vote on how we build the ice cream stand. And nobody wants to focus on how we get someone there to operate it. And that's the tough stuff that comes with somebody like an enterpriser like myself, who's built businesses and understands how that happens. And so for us to do that, that must be the focus. Or the rest of the plan is just, it's a wish list.
So to be fair, there were actually several meetings,
but
town
meetings
halls
aren't votes.
about the public hall, or about the comprehensive plan that were driven by the public, for the public. The public had their input on it.
Not all the public. I mean, you can't just say that. Yes, there was a meeting and there were people who attended, but that doesn't mean that it
Nobody called me.
Yeah, nobody called Zach. Nobody to say that. Oh, there was multiple inputs and there was all this community support. That's not accurate. Zach didn't get consulted. Business owners in town didn't get consulted. And so what happens a lot is a lot of well-intentioned people put together a plan that is a target. It's a nice to have. We need to show it to those people that we're trying to bring to town. But to use it as a Bible to grow from, no. And I don't think we need updates on it until it is codified that this is actually what the public wants the city to be.
So when you talk about including all of the public, I double dare you to go door to door with me for a day. I mean it. Go talk to the public.
John, walking
I
the street
talked to
does
more
not
people
walking the
than
street
anyone
does
else
not
at this
equate
table.
to efficiency and
Thursday,
effectiveness.
Thursday, let's go.
Bravo. Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, so Let's go ahead, Zach. You're the last person on this particular topic. So, how do you view the 2040 comprehensive?
Well, I have my own issues with it. I guess me and John are going to print it off and go door to door here on Thursday. My son does have therapy at like 11.
That's
but,
fine. I'll work around.
we'll go in the afternoon. I take issue with it because it's meant to be this end all be all, and unfortunately, the logistics of coordinating something like that with this many people is very difficult. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. But that being said, I think more people probably should have had some input. I mean, I talked to Lisa Vescovi, and she's like, they didn't call me. They've had a business on 7 across from us before we had a business. Guido, may God rest his soul, started that even before Dr. Ebert did.
All right.
So if I can make an observation on that, if I heard about it, I'm not engaged in all the social circles here. That's the importance of showing up to city council meetings on a regular basis, not just when it's election time. You can't phone it in. You've got to show up. You've got to talk to people.
Attendance is not
Yeah,
effective,
but
and,
if
and
they-
it doesn't mean that attendance does not equate to competency in that role. Okay.
I didn't know about it until they already had a committee. Why didn't somebody call me and say, hey, are you willing to do this? Because I totally would have.
But you still could have had public
Let's
input.
talk
Well, I
about
didn't
the
know about
Economic
it until it was
Advisory
already
Council.
done.
Let's talk about the Economic Advisory Council, because obviously Zach and business owners like him should be on it. We all have been talking about economic development up here, light industrial, etc. You need someone from real estate. You need someone from finance. You need someone from light industrial, just like the guy at the town with
You
the
need somebody from both the banks.
from both the banks. And you need
And
to
every
put
big real estate company in town.
You are right. It's the SEAL Team 6 of economic development. That's what we need to build in order to actually make any of this happen. Because all of this is just crosstalk and well intentions. But until that happens and until the right people are on it, this is, one of my frustrations is that board, that Economic Advisory Council, they can't be a coffee social club, okay? This is of effective people driving the effectiveness of this town. And so people like Zach, who actually are invested in this town with a business, representing small business, large business like IWC or whoever's south of town. ICF, yeah. And so, you have those larger entities, they need to be involved in the Economic Advisory Council. That's who's going to help drive this. Because all of the infrastructure we're talking about here, all of this balance of the 2040 plan, none of that happens until that advisory group is put together and we actually start making it happen.
Mark, you're kind of quiet down there.
Yeah, Mark, would you like to comment on the?
Well, and what was the question?
Well,
I don't even know anymore.
he had. So Tyler had mentioned the
Economic Advisory Council.
the importance of the Economic Advisory Council, and
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with Lee Summit's Economic Development Council and how they, and again, it's getting buy-in from your existing businesses and business leaders in the community. It's working hand in hand with your Chamber of Commerce. It is putting all of those things in place that when, a Target or a Chick-fil-A or, pick a business, comes and wants to have a discussion with your town of what do you have available? What plots of land are there? Okay, what am I going to get taxed on my employees or my product or whatever? Until you have some of this foundational stuff in place, you're going to struggle unless there's somebody related to or won the lottery or, any number of things and just has the ability to up and start it on their own. You have to have some of that foundational stuff ready.
So
I agree completely.
when I talk to residents, I get a lot of people that say, how come we can't have an Aldi's or a Walmart?
It's a
And
population thing.
I always respond with the same answer, the same response though. I ask them a question. I say, okay, let's say we do that. If Lee Summit has that, why did you move here? I don't know what that means, Connie.
You're pounding on the table.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want a Walmart.
Yeah, I don't want a Walmart either.
But that's my question to them is, if we bring those things here, and that's what Lee Summit has, why did you move here? And they always stop and they go, that's a good point. And it's not me defining what they should have or want. It's me asking them to think about, why did you choose this place instead of that place? If you're going to bring what that place has here. And that's where the comprehensive plan, love it or hate it, and there are parts of it I don't like either.
Mixed feelings.
There's some
But-
good ideas.
But what it does, and what it did do a good job of, is understanding that people want Pleasant Hill to stay the same feeling, even as the city grows and changes. That's the balancing act. We can bring a Walmart distribution center or a data center and have tons of industry and tons of growth and tons of money and tons of everything.
They just don't want it downtown.
I don't want it in my backyard either.
Right.
Right? And that's where you have to maintain the feel of Pleasant Hill when you balance these economic decisions.
I think everybody up here wants to maintain the feel of Pleasant Hill. These economic decisions that we're talking about in this council are about building on the outskirts of Pleasant Hill, not interrupting the flow downtown. I certainly don't want to add more traffic to 7 Highway.
Bravo.
There's some things in that 2040 plan that recommend alternate routes to get through the city that don't include 7. I think that's very admirable. We need to do that. But again, all of those things are not possible without the Economic Advisory Council and actually building out the infrastructure to support industry and business. And we can be a small town of 8 to 10 or 12,000 people, but we shouldn't continue just to urban sprawl our way around the perimeter of the city, building development after development. Even high density housing is a drain right now compared to focusing on light industrial and business development. That's what needs to be the focus. Everything else can come later, but we can't skip to the want to haves before doing the need to haves.
Very well said.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to taxes, revenue, financial policy. And Mark, do you support the use tax? Why or why not?
While I think that it would be a benefit to the community, I don't necessarily support it right now, just because of where we are at currently with our taxes in Pleasant Hill and Cass County, and being one of the higher taxed communities. I believe Greenwood has it on their ballot right now, and there's other communities. Until you find other avenues to maybe reduce tax to where we are a more attractive tax base to attract businesses, I don't think we're in the right place for it right now. I think we've got to make some other adjustments within our taxing to make it more feasible.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I'll jump in here. I heard arguments back and forth and how much it would drive, and while it's attractive to help cover that budget deficit that we have, and maybe start moving towards some of these initiatives we want to fund, every time I think about increasing tax on anyone's purchases in any way in this economy, the answer is no for me. And if the city really wants it, put it on the ballot. It's that easy. Let the residents have a voice. Don't pass this through the city council. I understand why they want it. Everyone else has it. Okay. But is that going to mean that when I purchase formula on Amazon, is it going to cost a little more? Well, if the answer is yes, then my answer is no, that I'm not for it. I just am not going to make that trade at this point. If the public says they want it, go for it. And that's really how more of these tax initiatives should be handled. It's going to take away that mystery of how did that happen? Well, we have it out in the public sphere. They got a chance to have a voice, and they voted on it. Not 4 people sitting on a council.
Zach, go ahead.
Yeah. I would just echo Tyler's statements. Let's put it on the ballot in November when we're going to have really good voter turnout
100%.
for the midterm elections. I think there's definitely some good things to be said about adding that on there. But I will also point out that our sales tax is 9.1%.
It's high.
And it's much higher than a lot of the other towns in Cass County. There's a reason why our hardware store doesn't hardly have any lumber. Because anyone building a house, you're ahead 2% to buy it from Harrisonville.
Yeah.
And some of that is things that we voted for, the pool and the fire. They have something on the sales tax too, but we're talking about splitting hairs, and 0.5% makes a big difference when you're spending $200,000 on lumber So I'd like to see us work there. And then, if our budget continues to be a problem, if the people are willing to go in with us and see this thing through, then so be it.
All right, John, same
Bring us
question.
home,
to you.
John.
Okay, so I won't spend a dime at the new price chopper when it's built because I don't spend money on new taxes that I didn't get to vote on. I don't really care about a use tax because it's opportunistic. You can choose not to purchase things online and avoid paying it. It's up to the residents and what the residents want. That being said, I would never put forth a use tax until the use of that money was explicitly defined and locked down.
I think we're all
When-
here for that.
When we had the city discussion about it, it was, well, we need it to pay for the damage to the roads from the Amazon trucks. That's what it's there for. But we could spend it on revitalizing downtown. We could put up new mood lights for our businesses downtown. We could spend it on this. We could spend it on that. And I said in city council, you're like a kid that found a $50 bill and you can't figure out what to spend it on. You lock it down and then we'll talk.
Well, the problem is we put it on the ballot because it's not a state initiative. There's really no legal enforceability of how that money's spent. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I completely agree with you.
It
There
can
should be.
change, but the city
Yeah,
can make an
they-
obligation under its own ordinance
There
to
should
spend
be,
that
but-
money as the citizens approved it.
We approved casinos and the lottery and all that was supposed to go to schools. You look back 30 years, how has that money gone to the schools? Well, they just took it. They gave them the lottery money, but they
They
took
took
everything
away the
else
other
out.
budget.
Yeah.
So there's really no way to sit there and say, "Hey, City of Pleasant Hill, you got to spend the use tax this way. You got to
But-
spend it on infrastructure." I would totally vote for it if it was like 100% infrastructure. Let's do it.
Every time. Yeah, I'm with you completely. And that's the problem with money. It's fungible. It can move anywhere on that budget. So I agree with you. Let's lock it down on the ballot. It's a use tax and it's going to infrastructure and that's it. Now, you know what they'll do though. I mean, what anyone will do. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm banging on the table as well. Just what you said with the lottery. Well, we could draw down 600,000 here and then replace it with this. It is real. You're always going to chase it through the budget, but as city council members, we can set the expectations. We can set the rules for how that's going to be spent, and then we're never going to back off on infrastructure spending when there is a persistent need that is known, that is forecasted. I mean, we have those funds for a reason because we know that those pumps are going to go out of cycle. We know what that's going to be. So we can't let those budgets decline in those areas if that use tax gets passed. So that's, I think, how you administrate it.
And maybe it's just me, but when you tell me we need it for this is what's justifying this tax. But we could spend it on a bunch of other stuff. That's when I start feeling like maybe I'm being lied to.
Transparency.
Yeah.
It's transparency.
And being answerable to your electorate.
You have to be accountable, and if you cannot state concretely what it's for, don't ask for it.
So as we close out with vision, leadership, and priorities, the question, and I'll take this to you first, John. Why are you the best candidate to help guide Pleasant Hill's future? And what do you think the city should do now to prepare for the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think Zach has got a lot of good points. He understands a lot of things. He made some comments at the meet and greet that made me understand that he didn't really understand how our local government works. But if we didn't have him on an economic development council, that would be criminal. Tyler is a very big picture guy. I would vote for you for a state office in a heartbeat.
Well, thank you, John.
But I don't feel that you're engaged at the small scale level that Pleasant Hill needs right now. Mark understands the community in a way. Sorry, I'm hitting the table again. I know, I'm getting there. Mark understands the
It's the
community
weed.
in a way that none of us do. He's involved with soccer, he's involved with parks, he's involved with council. He gets it. My biggest issue with Mark is he's non-confrontational. And right now, with the budget issues we have, we need somebody who's not afraid to get blood on their hands. And that's me. I know I'm the squeaky wheel, but I don't have alliances. I don't have reasons not to burn some bridges. I want to get in for a term or two at the most, do the slashing, get the blood over with, get it all over but the crying, then hand it off to somebody like Mark. Mark is a great long-term candidate, in my opinion. If I'd have known he was running, I probably wouldn't have run. But now I understand where my place would be as a short-term, get it done, get things straightened out candidate, and then pave the way for other people. Zach, I think you'd be a great candidate in a few years after you've been engaged with council and you understand better how things work and the dynamics that those people have to deal with. Tyler, you're just a great big picture guy.
Well, thank you.
You really are. This is peanuts to you. I mean, for what I think you're capable of. Mark, I think you understand things way better than I ever will.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Zach, let's go to you. Why are you the best candidate to help guide Pleasant Hill's future, and what do you think the city should do, or what are you going to do to help the city prepare for the next 5 to 10 years?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I think all of us love this town. I don't think that can be doubted. My people have lived here for going on 150 years. I've got 35 graves that I decorate up in Pleasant Hill Cemetery, but I love this town. I sweat and bleed purple and gold. I was there, Thursday night in Harrisonville, one-man cheering crew. I'm still recovering my voice from that. But as far as looking forward to the future, I think I can help bridge that gap between people who are wanting to come in and start a business, because, I've been a half owner of Pleasant Hill Animal Clinic for almost 15 years now. So, I've been doing it every day, day in and day out, and I know what it takes to run a business in this town, and there's something to that.
Tyler, same question to you. And why are you the best candidate to help guide Pleasant Hill into the future, and what do you think we should do now to prepare for the next 5 to 10 years?
Thank you. I've been waiting for this question because I do have a big picture that I'm looking at. It's bigger than the 2040 plan, but I have the background in business and experience as an enterpriser to actually make this happen. To help guide that council and guide our community leaders towards actually putting into action what has been talked. We need less talk. We need more action. There's a lot of things written down. There's a lot of discussions that have happened. I also bridge gaps. I lead a company where 6 languages are spoken, where, we deal with people from every walk of life. And so when it comes to how we interact with the city, we need to be bridge builders. And there may be some people that need to be removed. Hard discussions. And I have hard discussions all day long. But those hard discussions don't need to demoralize everyone else who is well-intentioned, a great dedicated public servant. I don't want to call it out. John, you used the word blood on your hands and said, I'm not afraid to be the bad guy. And I get the message that you're providing there, but the message to our city administration is one of fear. And that can't be what council represents. We can accomplish your goals, and we'll have lots of discussions, I think, going forward. I mean, I never knew of you before, but we will have conversations going forward about how the city should grow. But we need to be bridge builders and not setting the house on fire in order to right the ship. And so when it comes to why you should vote for me, why I'm the right one for that position, it's because that's what I'm going to bring to this position. I'm going to interface with someone like Zach and someone like Mark. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room, and I often am not. I need to surround myself with the smartest people in the room in the subject of small business ownership in this town, the people who understand the institutional functions that it takes to make things happen. And you're right. I get in my truck every day. I drive an hour into work. I spend all day down in Kansas City, and I drive an hour back. Wouldn't it be great to have an industrial base here where more people were not behaving like that? And to do that, we need someone like myself in that role.
I can tell you, living 5 minutes from work is...
That would be great. I would be thrilled. The commute's killer.
If we're going to say that,
I live closer to City Hall than anyone.
All right, Mark.
Sorry, Mark.
Mark, let's hear from you. Why are you the best candidate to help guide Pleasant Hill's future, and what do you think should be done now to prepare for the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay.
I want to begin by, first of all, thanking the other candidates. You guys have all been great to have our discussion with today and our previous public get-together. I don't think the choice of any one of us is going to be a bad choice for Pleasant Hill. We each bring to the table some very unique qualities. John, I don't know that everyone in my circle would say that I'm the easiest to get along with. But I can see where you would say that because I do have the background and the experience of customer service in my day-to-day work, project management, being on the different boards here in town. And again, my approach is more of a mentor and a leader, not to be that combative person. And again, there's a time and a place for it. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about a project. I just, sometimes the old adage, you attract more flies with honey than, So my vision, I think that I bring a lot of good experience within already knowing kind of how the mechanisms work. Knowing what previous councils, how they communicated, how they behaved, knowing a baseline of what's working, what's not working. That's kind of where my approach is I want to represent our residents. I've had quite a bit of experience already interacting with them. The Prop P Parks project is probably the most recent example of that. What items were we missing within the community? Where did we need improvement? Just being able to be in that project from start to finish is probably where my feather's in my hat most recently. As far as like vision 5 to 10 years, the economic development, getting that fundamental base started in our community, finding all of the right people to fill those shoes. It's got to start somewhere, and I think we are all in agreement that it's long overdue. So,
And that concludes our 2026 Pleasant Hill Council at Large debate. Thank you, PH MoMag, for hosting the debate. Thank you, candidates, for your participation. Mr. John Self, Mr. Tyler Young, Mr. Mark Crane, and Dr. Zachary Patterson. And also thank you, folks in the listening audience. Everyone make sure to get out and vote in the upcoming elections in Pleasant Hill for April the 7th.
Great to see you, sir.
yes.
Yep.